I want to throw out some disclaimers for today's class just to set you up for success and freak you out a little bit. Just kidding. I want you guys to focus. Oh, right. I want you to focus less on the details that I'm going to give you today, although that's helpful to an extent. I want you to focus more on the spirit behind what we're talking about today, as best as you can. Because today we will be talking about opposing evil. How does that look? Is that terrifying or what? Yeah. Opposing evil. That's the deal. Okay, there's like a Jumanji piece up here. I don't know what's going on. All right, so for your viewing pleasure, this will be here to continue to minister terror throughout the class. All right. Opposing evil. A practical approach on how to manage your atmosphere. That is Lord Voldemort. Yeah, so we're going to get into some practicals today. We're going to get into behind the scenes. We're going to get into some interesting things you potentially have never heard before, which I think has maybe happened every class. I don't know. But some of you guys, this particular subject today, I had to cut out pages and pages of notes because we don't have time. So I'm going to have to blast through some of it, but I'm going to do the best I can to give you this from a holistic approach and at least make it functional for you, all right? So to talk about opposing evil, first of all, we got to talk about evil. We got to talk about evil. Oh, that's a lot more granulated than I thought it would be. Oh, well. All right, so I am not interested in blowing evil out of proportion. I'm not interested in emphasizing evil or focusing on evil. Quite frankly, that is a waste of time when it comes to glorifying evil. It's such a waste. Not just like from the spiritual ramifications, but just practically, you don't get anything from it. It's such a waste. So I'm not interested in aggrandizing evil. That's not my goal here, okay? But we do need to talk about it, because how are we going to oppose something we don't understand? So we're going to talk about it a little bit. Evil is mostly just annoying at this point, to me. Honestly. Evil is obnoxious, gets in the way, troublesome, whatever. Evil is not powerful. And there are a lot of Christians who don't agree with that statement. And all of them are wrong. Evil is not powerful. Evil is not powerful. Evil is not powerful. Evil is not powerful. Okay. I was with Seth Dahl a couple months ago in Ireland. He was preaching at a conference, and we were chatting over breakfast one time or something. I don't know. And the way he described this dynamic to me was actually, I loved it. We were talking about evil and Christians and mindsets and beliefs and all this stuff. And he's like, a lot of people think that evil is like God on one side of a chessboard and evil's on the other side, or Satan or whatever. And that's actually not the scenario at all. Evil is one of the pieces on the board. Evil is not competing with God. That is not happening. That is not real. And some of us don't get that yet. So if you're going to be able to utilize what we're going to go over today, you must understand evil has its place in the world, and it is not supreme. Evil is not powerful. Okay. But we do need to talk about it because the world we live in has evil in it. Evil is here. Evil is not powerful, but evil is present. Evil is among us. Evil has its fangs in things and in people and systems and circumstances, and the list goes on. Evil is here, so we have to deal with that, okay? We're not going to get into the origin of evil, although that would be really fun, because that's a terrifying conversation. Just kidding. It's an interesting conversation. We don't have time for that. But what we just need to deal with for today's class is that evil is functioning among us. It's operating. It's here. It's trying to accomplish its agenda, right? Okay. Evil is oppressive and destructive to those who fear it. It's the only place that evil is going to have power, is when you believe it does. Evil is oppressive and destructive to those who fear it. So can evil have power? Yeah, when it's borrowed. Evil can jack power, can take it and use it. The captain of the varsity team is fear. Fear is running the show. Fear is their front runner. He's the John the Baptist of Satan, preparing the way. It's time for him to come. Let me get you ready. Let me get your hearts prepared. Let me get you nice and prepped for evil to have its way in your life. Fear. Why fear? I don't know. But fear is the bad boy, the big one. Fear is the access point to your belief. Fear is where you trade your power to his. You give it by being afraid. And some of you have practiced that in this class. I've talked about some things, and fear made more sense than anything else to you on how to deal with what I was saying. That's super sad. So we're calling that out today. That is totally inappropriate. That is not okay. It's illegal. It messes you up. It wastes your time. Don't do it. So we're going to get into some stuff today. You guys, we're going to get into fear. Let's talk about fear. Fear resides in your belief, your belief systems, the things that you've decided are true or powerful or whatever, right? It's okay to feel fear. I would like to say that Jesus felt fear. He felt the temptation of it. It's okay to feel fear. It's not okay to obey him. It's okay to feel the temptation to be afraid, to know that that's an option. When it becomes sin is when you embrace that option. When you decide that's what's true, that fear is right, that fear is prominent, that fear is powerful. That's when we get into some ugly stuff. I think I'm doing really well on flying through this. Okay, there's a difference between feeling the invitation of evil and embracing that invitation. The Bible calls this dynamic temptation. And a lot of Christians, that just gets shoved into the recesses of religion jargon, but temptation is a very real thing we deal with all the time. And it's not just with sin, although obviously that's very relevant. Temptation has to do with accepting the proposal that evil has to bring to you to get access to your life. You might not actually see the manifestation of that acceptance outside of you, maybe not right away, but the temptation thing is happening underneath your conscious mind. It's happening before your decisions. Temptation takes place in your desire. It takes place in your intention, in your motive, which for some of us who lack self-awareness, that is a tricky conversation. I don't know what I think. I don't know what I feel. When I'm out ministering and stuff and I'm talking to people, like people are on the prayer line, they want me to help get this thing sorted through their life, I ask them some practical questions to bring their consciousness to attention, and their answer to me sometimes makes me so sad. Their answer is, I don't know. I'm like, what are you afraid of? I don't know. Why are you afraid of that thing? I don't know. I'm like, are you kidding me? I mean, you and I can't go any further until you bring an answer. I'm expecting you to know. I've had people look at me like, what is the matter with you? Why are you asking me that? Gosh, it's so invasive. I'm like, I thought you wanted to fix this. It's expected that you would understand what's dragging you around in the world you live in. If some of you were not raised with that standard in your life, let me be somebody to break that and set a new standard. You must know what's happening to you. You must know what you want. You must know why you want it. If you don't, the enemy will. He will call the shots for you. God is not going to manage that for you. The enemy is happy to. If you give it to him, he'll run your show. God's looking for friends. He's not looking for slaves. Slavery is not an option with the Lord. You don't get to be that with him. He believes in you too much. He cares about you too much. He loves you. The enemy doesn't have any of that in his heart, so he'll gladly take over your life. Okay, so why? We must understand that. And so that's a journey. Don't feel overwhelmed and oppressed by that. Feel the invitation. feel the excitement of, hey, guess what? I just gave you permission to know things you maybe didn't get to know before. You can know what's going on. Where is it coming from? Why is it there? I find a lot of guys in our culture especially are not super in tune with that stuff. They don't know why. Because of, I mean, it's not just guys, but that seems to be a pretty common thread from my experience. They weren't expected to know. Oh, he's a jock. He's a genius. He's an engineer. He's just like that. That's just Jack. No one expected him to have responsibility in his morals, in his emotional intelligence, in the reasons behind his relational ties to other human beings. No one expected it from him, so he never had to learn. Never had to understand or navigate it. I'm telling you, like, if we raise our kids like that, we are setting them up for failure. We are handing them over to the enemy on a silver platter. What do you want to do with him? He's ready. He has no idea what's going on. There's so much opportunity. We must know where that stuff's coming from. All right? So the temptation comes. You guys, you can feel it. I didn't used to be able to feel this, but the more you engage with the stuff we're talking about in this class, the easier things become, the more recognizable they are, the more manageable all these details become because you have a structure within which they get to set. They make sense. They fit. My bedroom right now is a war zone, a little bit, because I don't know where to put a lot of it. I don't know where to put certain things. I have like a pile of like gifts that I don't know what to do with. They're not functional. I don't want them on my desk, but I don't want to throw them away because I feel guilty. So they just sit there in a pile. I don't know where, and they're all shaped like mustaches. That's not true. I like the mustache gifts. There are several misplaced things in my room, and it looks like a disaster because I don't know where to put them. The same dynamic is true in this stuff. If you don't know where this stuff is supposed to go, you're like, oh my God, I don't know what he's talking about. What do I do with that? What does that mean? It feels true. I just don't know how to do anything with it, right? As you continue to engage these dynamics, structure will start to form. That's not something you make happen. It's a result of your intent, of how you choose to engage, of the building that you participate in, right? As that happens, it's not something you make happen. It's the result of you engaging with the Lord. As that structure forms, pretty soon you'll hear stuff and you'll know exactly where it goes. Oh my gosh, that was lust. Oh my gosh, that person's trying to control the room right now. That's why I feel so angry. I didn't have a bad day. That's not okay. That fits somewhere. I get it. Right, whatever. That stuff finds place. As you engage, the structure forms and then things find their place. Order, structure is provided and you're able to deftly navigate those things, right? So it got to the point in my life where I can feel the temptation. Like the other day, I'm working with some people in my business world. There's a group text conversation, and one of the guys said something to several of us, and the way he worded his text was kind of rude, kind of domineering and disrespectful. And I saw that, and I was like, he just sent this to 10 other people. And all of us are leaders. I was like, wow. And I felt the temptation to be offended. Who does he think he is? Doesn't he know who I am? Doesn't he, whatever, right? I felt the temptation, but because I know him, because I know what it's like to try and engage some of the dynamics he was just like trying to address and whatever, I overlooked it. I didn't wrestle like, oh, do I want to be mad or not? That didn't happen. I just ignored it. It's fine, and I responded with what he was looking for. I gave him the answer as if he wasn't offensive. I ignored it. If I was offended and I ignored it, I'm violating my own conscience, right? The difference is I didn't actually accept the offense. Didn't want it. Because I couldn't have forced myself not to take it. A lot of stuff had happened before that moment where all of a sudden there wasn't a place for it to land. I was fine. But I was aware of the temptation. That awareness has grown from my engaging in this arena for a long time now, right? So I can catch when that stuff shows up. Not all the time, but often, and way more often than I used to be able to. I didn't used to catch this stuff at all. I had no idea, right? Like that was not on my grid. But my point is, you guys, your powers of discernment can grow to the point where you recognize underneath the veil what the enemy is trying to give you, and you don't touch it. And you're fine. And you move on unscathed. And he doesn't get to steal or pillage or whatever, right? All right. So I think we've got some common examples of the doors that a temptation like to grab hold of us. Offense is one of them, a big one. Fear, another big one. Rejection is a big one with humans. Lust, another big one. These aren't the only doors. These are just common ones I've noticed when it comes to temptation. People don't even bat an eyelash at this. It's who I am, what I'm like. We would never say it out loud because we know that's wrong, but in our beliefs, I actually think I might be a pervert. Something might be wrong with me, right? Some of us believe that stuff. I might not be lovable. I might not possibly be able to be accepted by anyone. We would never say that out loud, but some of us believe that, right? These are doors of offense that you don't have to accept. These are doors of temptation that if the enemy can get you to buy in, isn't that offensive? Shouldn't they not behave like that? Don't they know who you are? Don't they know what you're capable of? Don't you need to put them in their place, right? These are just common ways that temptation comes in to grab hold of us and say, give me access to your life. We don't have to say yes. So as we do the heart work, as we engage with the Lord, the space for these things to come gets smaller and smaller. Seriously. You guys aren't going to be struggling for the rest of your lives. That's not normal. That's not maturity. You actually get to a place of functionality. I don't know what the standard is. For each of us, it'll be different. But you actually get to a place of competence where these things don't throw you anymore. You don't even have to think about it. And then you get to move on to bigger and better problems. Just kidding. That sounds so negative. I'm kind of kidding. So I was going to have us read Psalms 101. It's too long. We don't have time for it. So the gist is, it's David writing to the Lord. I will not let evildoers and liars and all these people be in my midst. I'll kill them. I'll run them out of the city. I'll only look at what's righteous and good and the people with integrity. Basically, it's his whole rant, right? Royalty naturally opposes evil. That's a very real function in every single one of you. It's what you are. You're royalty. And so naturally, evil is repulsive to you. That's normal. The only way evil makes sense or is attractive or whatever is when we've said yes to the enemy and he gets to interpret what we're observing around us. He gets to interpret what that thing means, where that thing came from. Okay, so you guys pause. We're going to get into, can you open this for me? Thank you. We're going to get into having relationships with other human beings with discernment. What do you do with this gift when you know so much delicate information and it's not good? No, that's good, thanks. What do you do when you know stuff about other people, what's going on, what they're doing, what's in their heart, and it's not good? What do you do? What do you do if someone makes you angry and that it feels like that thing comes up in you? You know what I mean? It's probably easier for me just to demonstrate it for you than try to describe it. We could call it rage. It's anger, hatred. It's actually hatred. And there are several of you in this room who don't believe you're capable of hatred. And I'm calling you out today. Every single one of you is capable of hatred. Jesus was capable of hatred. And a lot of Christians have so reprogrammed their brains to interpret the impulses in their hearts and have so removed hatred as a possibility that they can't even recognize it anymore. They have all this anger and all this resentment and all this frustration, and their body is agitated, and they don't know why. And they have all this Christianese that comes out, and they feel trapped. Help me, pray for me. And I'm like, you hate that person. Why don't you just admit it so you can be free? You guys, it's funny. It's sadly true. I hear Christians all the time say, I don't hate anyone. And I'm like, you're full of crap. And it's not, it's okay. You can laugh. That's fine. I'm not super bleak about this. I don't think everyone's a horrible person. I don't think we're all, I think some people are more prone to hatred than others. I think that's true. But people do heinous things. And if hatred doesn't show up, it's probably because you're denying stuff. You're pretending like things aren't the way they are in your mind, right? So one, I want to give you permission. Guess what? If you hate somebody, just admit it. Go ahead. Because honestly, moving toward acknowledging your hatred is way more breakthrough than pretending it's not there. Zach, what did I say to you the other day? Something about a secret and a lie. An authentic mess is better than a perfect lie. The one who conceals hatred has lying lips. Proverbs 10:18. What is Solomon saying? If you have hate in your heart, but you act like everything's fine, you act like you're chummy with them, you act like, what you're supposed to outside, but inwardly it's different, you're a liar. You're not living in the light. You are pretending. And guess what? In that world, you don't have power. You're lying. He who conceals hatred has lying lips. Oh, are we feeling it yet? We're doing some surgery today, guys. We got some work we got to do if we're going to be able to handle where we're going today. He who conceals hatred has lying lips. Better is open rebuke than hidden love. Faithful are the wounds of a friend. Profuse are the kisses of an enemy. What is he saying? You guys, it's better to outwardly express your anger and your frustration than to inwardly love someone and not express it. So this isn't about love or rebuke. This is about the light. This is about what you're choosing to participate in, how you trade. It's better that whatever you're giving is, if it's negative, it's better that it's in the light, whatever you give, even if it's negative, than if you have good stuff that you hide. There's a standard of living here. There's a call to reality. It's better that you rebuke in the light than secretly love somebody and not say anything. Because in the dark, that stuff can get weird. Good or bad. In the dark, that stuff gets weird. You are a citizen of light. You are supposed to trade in the light. In the light, everything is revealed. Not exposed, but revealed. There's covering in the light. It's a system that we trade in. Some of us are not comfortable in the light because we're afraid. Because there are things we've not let go of, we've not been healed from, we've not embraced, the Lord has not spoken to us about yet, or whatever. And so we can't trade in the light because of what it'll cost us. We're still too scared. I'm telling you today, if you want to move in anything we're about to go into, you have to give that up. You can't live in the dark anymore. You can't manage people's perception of you anymore. You don't have the grace for that kind of management. I guess I'll say that again. I forgot what I said. You don't get to manage people's perception of you anymore. So many people spend so much time and energy focusing on what other people think about them. They're trying to manage that stuff, trying to appeal to certain people, certain things, trying to conduct themselves in such a way that they'll get certain results. You guys, that's manipulation. It's witchcraft. You trying to manage other people's perception of you is witchcraft. And a bunch of you in this room do it. You're doing it right now. Okay, too close. Everything's fine. Pull back. Trying to manage other people's perception of you is witchcraft. You're trying to control them. You can't actually, but you think that you can. You think that you are. Anyone that steps into the light, though, sees that and feels sorry for you. It sucks that that's what you've reduced yourself to, that that's what you think this is about. You think that's the highest end for you, for them? You are so off in what you know to be true. We got to move on. Oh, gosh. Emily, you're gone. Zach, will you read this for me?
Matthew 5:23-26. If you are offering your gift at the altar and there remember that your brother or sister has something against you, leave your gift there in front of the altar. First go and be reconciled to them, and then come and offer your gift. Settle matters quickly with your adversary who is taking you to court. Do it while you are still together on the way, or your adversary may hand you over to the judge, and the judge may hand you over to the officer, and you may be thrown into prison. Truly I tell you, you will not get out until you have paid the last penny.
Okay, we've got so much in here. We'll talk about two of them. You guys, one thing we want to take from this is how your relationship with other people is of high priority to the Lord. He very much cares about your relationship with other people, the standing of it. What's in your heart, what's in theirs. He cares about it. If you are worshiping God, which is what we're talking about with the altar, right? Your gift at the altar. If you're in worship, and in that moment you remember, oh, someone has something against me. He's saying, stop worshiping me. Go fix it first. And then once you've reconciled, come back and do the thing. I won't receive this in this state. Go fix it. Because otherwise you're off. You think this is just me and you. You think they have nothing to do with this. If that's what you think, you don't get what's happening here. You're trying to engage with me outside of love. Do you know what I am? We're going to get into this later, not today, but he cares about your relationship with other people. You don't get to just do whatever with them and you and God are good. It doesn't work like that. Uh-oh. You guys, this Christian thing, this Jesus following thing is hard for people that want control. It's hard for people that want to manage stuff. It's hard for people that don't want to be humbled. It's hard for people that can't say, I'm sorry. Following Jesus is hard for people that can't admit they're wrong. Witchcraft, control, pride, fear, right? It's hard for people that are still coddling that stuff in their life. You can't follow him with those. Oh, God, we got to move on. Okay, one thing I want to point out is the word court. Taking you to court. Dang it. You guys, there's a court system going on here that we need to talk about, okay? We're going to get into that a little bit in a moment. Help.
Oh. If your brother or sister sins, go and point out that... This is the Bible. I know. It's a different verse than we usually read. If your brother or sister sins, go and point out their fault just between the two of you. If they listen to you, you've won them over. But if they will not listen, take one or two others along, so that every matter may be established by the testimony of 2 or 3 witnesses. If they still refuse to listen, tell it to the church. And if they refuse to listen even to the church, treat them as you would a pagan or a tax collector.
That's Matthew 18, 15 to 17. You guys, if your brother or sister sins, go and point it out. Go tell them how messed up they are. Tell them how they've royally screwed up. That's literally what this Bible verse is saying. If they've made a mistake, go make it known to them. And it goes off about, okay, if they don't handle that, take it to another level. If they don't handle that, take it to another level. If they can't handle that, kick them out. I mean, don't expect them to have a standard of righteousness, is the pagan/tax collector status. Don't expect them to conduct themselves as holy when clearly they are not. Clearly they aren't there. Extend grace to them in that way. Don't expect it. However, if they're a brother or sister and they've done something wrong and you go expose that thing, you're administering grace to your brother or sister. You are bringing them back into the light, into connection, into the family, right? Not that they were ever off, but in their minds, they were actually deviating from union. So you confronting that thing in their life is actually grace. How they respond determines where they end up, right? How you manage this, though, is based on your intent. You guys, intent in the Spirit is almost everything. Your intent, your motive, what's driving you, your why. Your intent in the Spirit is almost everything. There is no fear in love, but perfect love casts out fear, for fear has to do with punishment, and whoever fears has not been perfected in love. This is just a little pit stop today. Love has your name on it. You are given in the exchange. You guys, you don't love people apart from who you are. You don't love people as separate from your identity. That's not possible. God doesn't do that. Some of us have reduced love to an action in our mind, and so divorced ourselves from the offering. We're just wrong. That's not real. You can call it love, it's just not what it is. Okay? You are a practitioner of love. We're going to get into this in a later class, but this big deal, it's coming up. All right. For God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of a sound mind. This is true, regardless of how you feel. The spirit God has caused to live in you is different than fear. I don't care how you feel, this is true. You have a spirit of power in you, a spirit of love, a spirit that is in control of itself, that thinks correctly, as in is lined up with the truth. That's what's in you. Okay, that's 1 Timothy 1:7. So what do I do when I'm aware of evil in someone's life? Let's talk about it. Okay, first one, I think I've got a little bit of a graphic on this. Oh. Your intent determines your path. So you guys, in the natural, we would think, if I want to drive to San Francisco, I'm going to figure out where it is first, and then we'll figure out our route, right? In the spirit, it's the opposite. In the spirit, you decide what you want, and then that determines where you end up. Your intent determines your path. This is a big deal. Those of you who lack self-awareness, it'll be difficult to be able to choose intentionally on this, to be aware of what's driving you. Why do you want that? Why is that person so attractive to you? Why is that job so much more appealing? Why is that opportunity terrifying? Why don't you associate with those kinds of people? Why? Some of us don't know. But there's a very real reason that's driving our life, our choices. It determines our circumstance and our relationships, and your intent determines your path. Most people engage in life via the soul realm. Most people only care about what they're experiencing as it's interpreted by how they feel, what they think, what they want. That's all they're operating with. That's all they're aware of. That's all that's comfortable or acceptable to them. I don't know why. I mean, I guess I can get it on some level, but it's challenging when the world you live in is spirit, right? But most people, this is where they operate from. So that's something we have to deal with when it comes to dealing with other people. We must understand where they're coming from and speak their language if we're going to go anywhere together. Okay? This is me personally talking about how I manage this stuff. I use my insight to guide them through their own soul process, soulish process, whatever, to help them recognize what I already know. I'm appealing to their thoughts, their sensations, their drive, and I'm helping connect specific dots on their journey, especially if it's been an experience that I've had with them. Remember when this happened? Remember when you said this? What was going on there? And I'm unpacking those things to help guide their consciousness, their awareness to the problem. You're afraid of rejection. You don't trust me because you think people reject you. I can't just come out and say that because that won't translate. But if I expose to them how we got here, how it felt to me, and I can help connect the dots, when we get to that moment of truth, they're ready. They're prepared. There's another component to this. In that journey, I'm waiting to see if they will submit to my authority. And you guys, this is a very subjective dynamic. This component is very subjective. This has to do with your ability to judge in that moment. You can't require this of anyone. You can't demand it in the spirit realm. They have to choose it. Right? So in that conversation, as I'm having that soulish conversation about, hey, remember when you said this thing and you did this and you avoided that thing and this problem happened? Remember when this stuff happened? I'm waiting in that conversation. Do they actually want to hear what I have to say? Are they actually interested in this being different? In this changing? In getting insight or counsel or wisdom beyond what they already know? Especially from me. If that window doesn't open at any point in the conversation, I don't tell them. I don't tell them. Why? Because I don't care about them? No. Man, it has taken some impressive self-control not to go there when they're not ready. It's one of the more difficult aspects of having discernment, is you just want to deal with it. You just want to take care of it. You just want to get it done. Because you know what's going on. You can fix it. But when they're not ready and you impose that, your gift becomes a curse to them. Your gift pushes them away. Your gift isolates you from community. Your gift vilifies you. And a lot of people who operate in a high level of discernment have created they've made their own bed. They've caused themselves to be this like sojourning, isolated martyr because of how they impose their gift on other human beings and violate honor. They bypass the transaction, how that's supposed to take place. They violate it. And then they blame everybody else for why their life looks the way that it does. It's their gift, it's God, it's people, it's ugh. And they're typically painted as like this powerful prophet who's just misunderstood. I'm like, I don't think that's how that works, people. I think you just haven't taken the time to learn the language of the people. You just have been too impatient and demanding and entitled in your gift. You've forgotten that you have that to serve, to help. You're supposed to empower these people, and what you're doing is terrifying them, crushing them, driving them away, right? So I'm looking for, if at any point in the conversation I feel that they submit, you guys can, I don't know how to describe this because you just feel it. Like it's almost like your weight is pressing against them and eventually they just give in, they surrender, right? And then your spirit kind of overtakes theirs. Not in a creepy way, that sounds creepy. It's not creepy, it's actually really powerful when love is the motivator. It's what parents do. It's what parents are supposed to do. It's what the Holy Spirit does. You guys, the moment we give in, right? Breakthrough. Oh my God, my life changed. Everything was so much better. God changed my life. Who decided that it was going to happen then? A lot of times we did. He's waiting for you to give in. His Spirit is pressing upon you and you're just not ready. And eventually the moment comes where you surrender. You submit to his authority and then life happens. This is a very real dynamic. Is this the only way it works? No. But this is a very real dynamic. This happens between us. In almost every relationship, someone is submitting to the other. And it's not always the same way all the time. You guys, we can give and take and whatever. But this happens. As a student, if you're learning from a teacher, when you submit to their authority in your spirit, in your heart, when you submit, you're actually able to take what they're giving you to another level so much faster. It can go further in your own life, and you can get breakthrough a lot quicker when you submit to their authority in the spirit realm. Whether it's a secular educational facility or you're here or whatever, when you submit, you can receive. The same is true in these conversations. When they submit to me, I know they're ready to hear what I have to say. And then we'll go there. And that's typically when they break, when the tears start to flow, when life starts to be different because now they're open to something else they could not find before, right? So the gift of discernment comes in to serve, to cut away, to clear. Okay, we got to move on. This takes time, but I don't know any other way to help people long-term with lasting results outside of relationship. This is ongoing, line upon line, guiding them into the light as a lifestyle. As iron sharpens iron, so one person sharpens another. You guys, that's what's supposed to happen. We're supposed to be calling each other out. We're not policing each other. We're loving each other. Love always protects. Love doesn't keep record of wrong, but love always protects. If evil has come into your life and I'm watching it devour you, love will not sit by and do nothing. Right? So some of us are too afraid to love our neighbor. We're too chicken to actually love. We're nice, everyone loves us, everyone invites us to everything, but we can't confront worth crap. We can't get in the way of wickedness in someone else's life because we're afraid of what it's going to cost us. That's not love. It's fear. It's control. It's cowardice, you know? All right. Danger. Hazardous material. Handle with care. We're about to get into some handling it. So the judgment of error is a delicate matter. When we look at something and pronounce that's bad, that's wrong, that's dysfunctional, that's not okay, what we're engaging with in that scenario can get tricky and slippery and weird really fast. Before we can scrutinize any matter, we must first scrutinize ourselves. Before we pull out the scalpel and cut anyone open, we must first be cut. I don't mean suffering, I don't mean pain, I don't mean, mutilation. I don't mean any of that, because that's a spirit that's not from God. I don't mean that. What I'm talking about is, I will not impose upon you what I've not carried myself. The Pharisees were rebuked by Jesus for increasing the burden, but they're not even willing themselves to carry it for the people, right? When it comes to correcting, rebuking your brother, if you're not willing to undergo the level of scrutiny and standard that you're calling them to in your own life, you don't get to call them out. You don't get to. It's not okay. You can try, you'll just make a mess for both of you, and you'll walk away with a limp, but you'll probably hurt them as well. So unless you're willing to go under the knife like you're expecting them to, put the knife down. It's not about the details. It's about the court. Oh, God. Okay, so we're only going to talk about this for a little bit. A little bit. We're going to talk about the court. Dun, dun, dun. Honestly, if I had a judge's robe, I would have worn it today. And I thought, do I know anyone who has one? And it was too late to actually pull that off. So I'm wearing my executioner's hood, but it's not worth it. Anyway, okay, so when it comes to our relationships with people, when it comes to navigating this life and all the things that are happening, you guys, all of us are judging things, right? It's normal. We're supposed to. We want to know, when is the sun going to go down? How fast am I allowed to drive on this highway? How far down is that drop? Can I survive the jump? We're judging all that stuff, right? It's not bad. It's good. It's important. It's necessary for us to stay alive. When it comes to each other, what's happening between us, our judgment is what interprets the outcome. Someone can say something beautiful to you, but if you heard it wrong, if you received it wrong, and you've judged that as offensive, as violating, as whatever, you walk away hurt. If their intent wasn't that, who brought the offense? You did. Does that mean you didn't get hurt? No, you did, because you said yes. And so, So we start to build a case. Why do we do this? I don't know. I mean, we could get into it, but we do this. We just got to accept that. We build a case against our brother. Oh, they left their shoes out again. Oh, the dishes are done again. They're skipping school again? I know no one in here does that. But you know the other students. They're skipping school again? She's dating another guy? Wasn't the last one like a week ago? Doesn't she know we can see her? Right? We start building a case against our brother of what's going on. Let's make it a little more personal. I think they lied to me. I think they lied about that thing. 4 weeks later, did they just lie again? I think they're lying. That person's a liar. We haven't talked to them once, but now we're starting to gather evidence to support the accusation. I'm right. I'm right. Am I right? They're a liar. I'm pretty sure that's true. I hate them. You haven't once talked to them. They think everything's great. They come around you, they hug you, and you're like, bless you too. You go home, oh God, I hate that person. Such a hypocrite. You guys, that sounds crazy, right? Except for we all do that. We do that. It's so weird. We're engaging in a court. We are not going to cover this to any degree of depth today. We're just going to talk about a dynamic that we're engaging with, okay? I'm calling it the court. All right. There is an unholy trinity of the court. This is just me, okay? I'm not pulling from scripture on this. I'm not trying to establish anything here. I'm trying to use imagery to help paint a picture of dynamics we engage with, okay? So there's the accuser. He comes and he says, how dare you think that about that person? What is the matter with you? Aren't you a Christian? How could you think that? You're so judgmental. You're such an accusatory person. You're so harsh. Gosh, it's always you. What's wrong with you? Right? Whatever. If we accept the accuser's voice as counsel, fear steps in. Do you know what's going to happen to you now? Do you have any idea what this is going to do? Right? And we're now trying to avoid the punishment. And this just keeps us in this weird, bound-up cycle in the dark of powerlessness. We just constantly have to run We get tossed to and fro in the sea, right? We can't hold on anything because we're guilty. We're guilty. In the court, this dynamic happens all the time. If you can't get out of this, you won't be able to confront someone else. You won't be able to expose anything in someone else's life because you're lost. The enemy has you. And we're not even talking about sin. We're talking about what you know to be real, true, actual.
Matthew 7, 1 through 6. Judge not that you be not judged. For with the judgment you pronounce, you will be judged, and with the measure you use it will be measured to you. Why do you see the speck that is in your brother's eye, but do not notice the log that is in your own eye? Or how can you say to your brother, let me take the speck out of your eye, when there is a log in your own eye? You hypocrite, first take the log out of your own eye, and then you will see clearly to take the speck out of your brother's eye. Do not give dogs what is holy, and do not throw your pearls before pigs, lest they trample them underfoot and turn to attack you.
Jesus is so weird. Such a weirdo. Just the way he talks, the things he says, like, what? Why are the pigs going to attack us? When did this get all violent? Where's that coming from, Jesus? What does the matter with you? Makes sense. I mean, you guys, the scalpel thing, if you're going to try and help somebody get something out of their eye, get the stuff out of your eye first. If you have stuff in your life that's keeping you from being able to engage with the truth, get that dealt with first before you ever approach somebody else about their stuff. And guess what? That has to happen, because how are you ever going to be a loving brother if you can't confront anyone? You have no power to do that. You can't do it well while you're still plank-eyed, while you still have junk in your eye, while you still see the world through a tainted lens, while you're still distorted in your understanding. Get that right so that you will see clearly to take the speck out of your brother's eye. Maturity says you not only got that out, but now you can actually help. Now you can step into someone else's world and clear a path they could not themselves. Most Christians have no idea how to do this well. Some of them try and they break bones. It's really sad and annoying, and churches split. It's like, what? Did that have to happen? Do we have to be so careless? So aggressive? So intense? No, we just need to sort this out. Get it out. You're afraid of them, so now you're going to go crush them? Destroy them? Your reaction to your fear is now to go just like bulldoze? It's not helpful. The intent there is fear, self-protection. I'm afraid of you, so now I'm going to destroy you. We see that all the time. In ministry. I wish that weren't true. It's really embarrassing and sad. But people responsible for ministries on the planet who are doing great things in the Lord have planks in their eye, and they don't know how to relate to other human beings. It's so annoying. Super frustrating. Especially when you're someone traveling and you're going to minister all these other places, right? And you run into this awkward, like, wait, what's the problem? Why don't you just confront them? And all this guilt and fear and shame comes out. You're like, oh my God. We can't even talk about that right now. Can we talk about you? Let's get this out. And it's not condemnation. I'm not like, oh, I'm so embarrassed for you. That's not it. I'm like, I can't believe you're living like this. How are you supposed to lead and carry this? It sucks. How are you supposed to walk in the light and have people watch and judge you while you're doing this? Super difficult, super painful. Some of you are going to go into ministry, are going to be these leaders. You're going to relate to other leaders. You're going to need to know how to do this. If we're ever going to get to where we're supposed to, we're going to need to know how to handle this stuff. Get the plank out of your eye, out of your intention, out of your beliefs, out of what you want, out of what you're motivated by, out of what you're aware of. Get it out so you can see clearly. And you guys, it's not your job to see clearly. It's get the thing out of the way, and you will. You'll see clearly. It'll happen. It's a result. So you trust yourself to the light. You allow what's true to have its effect in your world, in your judgment, in your perception. This is actually a lot easier than it sounds. The hardest part is giving up the thing. That's the hardest part. The building, he does. He's the one building this thing, not you. He'll do his part. You just need to get it out of the way. Dogs, filthy, rabid, darkened in their thinking, don't value what we value, right? Pigs, pearls before swine. Why, Jesus? Where are they coming from? I'd like to propose he's likening these to fools, to people who don't have a value for what you value. Not you as a person. I mean, they don't value the truth. They don't value holiness. They don't value righteousness. The world, a lot of people in the world don't have any value for that stuff. They don't care. If they can get away with it, they're good. Their morality is constructed of what can I get away with? What will I not be punished for? What won't cost me? If no one's going to say anything, then I'm good. In fact, I'm awesome for this. That's the standard the world has to offer. It's as good as it gets. Holiness, righteousness is governed within. It's you and the Lord. And you can do something that's totally acceptable, and the Lord's going to call you on it. And you get to go make it right. But guess what? You're free in that place. You're insanely powerful in that place. You don't need the agreement of others in that place. And you get to go influence the world. Don't throw your pearls before fools. Don't give the amazing, specific, supernaturally empowered insight and counsel to someone who's not going to value it. They'll throw it aside, and then they'll be offended that you tried to give it to them. And they'll try and kill you. It's funny until it happens, and you're like, holy, whoa. If you try to help someone who doesn't want the truth, they'll bite you. Why? I don't know, man. But the stuff that happens in their mind, if they don't feel safe, if they feel threatened, if they feel exposed or whatever, their mind goes to attack you. Here's what's wrong with them. Here's what their problem is. Punish them in this way. Bah, and they attack. They might be socially acceptable in their attack. They might be religiously appropriate. But the spirit of it is violent and not in a good way. And it's attacking you. It's not fun. It's painful. It's rough. So we guide them to that place of understanding so that it's no longer me who's the enemy. They can see who the real enemy is. It takes some work to get them there, but if you can get them there, man, they'll receive the truth. And most people I've found actually want the truth if you can help them get the crazy out of the way. If they can recognize that thing is destroying me, that thing doesn't belong here, oh, I have some responsibility in this. If they can recognize that, they're willing to give it up. And then when you have truth for them, it takes them to another place. It takes them to another level of existence. It's not just an improvement, it's another world. They step into a whole other arena in that place. Okay, so here's some rules of engagement. Are they a dog or pig, or are they a brother? Are they a dog/pig, or are they a brother? This is not your opinion of them, this is their opinion of them. What are you able to perceive they believe them to be? Are they your brother? Do they trust you? Or are they a dog/pig, as in they don't have a value for what you have to bring? We have to determine that, okay? So litmus test number 1, friend or foe, pig or brother. Discern that first, okay? If they trust you, if they have value for you, if there's a relationship enough, they're brother. If that's not there, they're quote-unquote pig. I'm not saying they're pigs, but they don't have value for it. You know how they'll respond. Jesus told you how they'll respond. So figure out, do they have value for you or not, okay? 2, do you have plank eye, or can you see clearly? Is that thing producing all kinds of gunk and pus and it's hard to see? Yeah, you guys, evil smells really bad. It looks disgusting. Pink eye is actually nothing compared to pride. Pink eye is nothing compared to deception. Anyway, so second thing, do you have plank eye, or are you seeing this clearly? Number 3, is your intent love or the other team? Are you motivated by what's best for this person? Or are you motivated to accomplish your agenda? To put them in their place? To protect yourself? What's motivating you? And you guys, there's no judge on this in your own heart. This is between you and the Lord. Only you will know. The gift of discernment is so challenging because the accountability part is almost non-existent right now. We almost don't really have a system in place for people to be able to operate in this healthily because there aren't other people around them operating in it healthily. We're going to create that. It's going to happen. It's not here yet, but we're going to create it. And pretty soon this will be a lot easier to come by. You won't just be you in the dark place with God trying to figure out, what is this? Where is this coming from? What am I after, right? All right, number 4. Are you lowly in heart or are you haughty? Are you humble or proud? As in, you guys, that comes with a posture. Are you willing to submit? And here's the ironic paradox of this whole thing. I'm looking for, will they submit to my spirit, right? My authority. But I go into that conversation already submitted to theirs. I'm not able to guide them unless I've submitted to the beauty and the royalty they possess. If I've not submitted myself to the person I'm angry with, the person that hurt my feelings, the person that offended me, if I've not gotten to the place where I can submit to them, I'm not ready to have them submit to me. I won't handle it correctly. This is so challenging if you don't know how to do it. I didn't figure this out by myself. The Lord showed me. He'll show you, which means you don't get to control what this is going to look like. You don't get to control it. You get to follow him. If you do, he will cause you to submit yourself to who they are. Not the evil in their life, not the thing you're going to confront them on, who they are. As a heart posture, as in you're humble and lowly in heart. There's someone in the world who's like that. Jesus described himself as such. He's the way. So you go in humble, lowly. Girl, let me tell you what's wrong with your life. That's not how this works. It's almost, honestly, authentic, holy confrontation is almost apologetic in nature. Almost. You flirt with that. It's really weird. All right, number 5. Are you willing to apologize? We're going to get into this later, as in not today. But if you aren't willing to apologize, you're probably not ready to have that conversation. If you can't find the possibility in your heart to say, I'm sorry for whatever, if that's actually not on the table for you, you're not ready. You guys, I can't tell you how helpful this is. These are great litmus tests to run yourself through before you actually engage that conversation. If you can't apologize, and for what? That's between you and the Lord. What I'm saying is, are you willing to? Can you consider it? Okay, and lastly, are you willing to allow them to hurt you? What are we talking about, you guys? We're talking about intent. Am I saying I want them to hurt you? Are you saying you want that? No. We're talking about willingness. The posture of your heart. Would you let them hurt you? If you're going into that conversation with this agenda to protect yourself, you're not ready to have it. Because you're still operating in the quote-unquote court. The law, you guys. Oh, we got to move on. Okay. Oh, shoot. All right. Can you read this story for me?
Yes.
We've got some guys in the Bible whom I think have given us a great example.
Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego replied to him, King Nebuchadnezzar, we do not need to defend ourselves before you in this matter. If we are thrown into the blazing furnace, the God we serve is able to deliver us from it, and he will deliver us from your majesty's hand. But even if he does not, we want you to know, your majesty, that we will not serve your gods or worship the image of gold that you've set up.
Most of us know this story, right? King Nebuchadnezzar creates this giant golden image of him. And everyone's supposed to bow down when all the trumpets and the band is playing, and Green Day's like, nah. Bow is the deal, right? And these 3 guys are the only ones in the entire company who don't bow. And the king gets really upset. He's like, well, maybe they didn't understand. So we do it a couple times. This goes on forever. And then finally, he's like, bring them over here. And they're like, hey, just so you know, we're not going to bow. We believe that our God will deliver us from you, Mr. Supreme Power in the world. And even if he doesn't, we're still not going to bow. What's going on here? What are they settled in? You guys, we know that God is good. We know that everything he does for us is for our benefit. And what they're showing here is if God decides that our death is appropriate, we trust him. If that's what he decides is best, then we trust him. If my demise is what he chooses, then I choose that too. What the heck, you guys? If you need control, you cannot trade here. You are broke. You can't even enter the room. If you still need to manage what happens to you, you don't get to know him like this. And you could not stand before a supreme power and say no, because he's more powerful than you. How many of you know that it's your role to stand before the Nebuchadnezzars of this world and say no? There's some of you in this room who will do that in quite a public manner, and you will make a mess of this world. And God will reward you. The planet will thank you. We need you to do that. You can't do that if you can't give God this. Absolute, authentic, actual trust. Not what you think trust looks like. Not what you've been able to observe thus far in your life. I'm talking about the real thing that flows from his heart. It's spirit. I'm talking about the real thing. We don't trust God because of what we're going to get. We trust him because he's good and kind and true. You guys, those are two different things. I've put a little diagram here to help us separate them. We trust God because because what he's like, his worthiness, the honor we have in him, the submission in our heart. That's why we trust him. Not because of what we're going to get out of it. Over there is entitlement and demand. That's where rebellion is birthed. We trust God because of who he is, not because of how it's going to benefit us. If we're still looking out for us, trust is missing. If we're still trying to establish success and victory in our right, we don't trust him. It's cold in here. Sorry, guys, I kind of like it. All right, so genuine, authentic trust is not based on our benefit, but on the nature of the one in whom we trust. Because the real deal is based on him, which means if it's going to cost you, that's not a deal breaker. This is painfully relevant to that conversation with your brother who has no idea they're destroying their own life. They have no idea what you're about to tell them. They have no idea how you experienced it, and you're going to step into that conversation. If you walk away with the wound, are you still willing to have it? If you walk away having to pay for the bill, are you still willing to go to dinner? Jesus already answered that question. He already decided where he's at. We all get to agree or not. We get to cast our lot. Either you trust in love or you don't. And when you do, there are things you will confront, you will oppose, and you will give voice to. Because that's what he's doing. And you can't do that if you don't trust him. Okay, I don't actually know what's going on after this. All right.
You are the salt of the earth, but if the salt loses its saltiness, how can it be made salty again? It's no longer good for anything except to be thrown out and trampled underfoot. You're the light of the world. A town built on a hill cannot be hidden. Neither do people light a lamp and put it under a bowl. Instead, they put it on its stand, and it gives light to everyone in the house. In the same way, let your light shine before others, that they may see your good deeds and glorify your Father in heaven.
So Jesus is not saying, go and try be salty. He's not saying, try to shine a little bit. Go try and make some light if you can. That's not what he's saying. Jesus doesn't play like that. You are the salt of the earth, period. End of story. Go be salty. As in, go be. You are naturally going to draw to the surface what's really going on. in the world if you're actually salt. If you're the real deal, you will expose what's really going on. It's what you do. If you're not ready to have those conversations, you will lose your saltiness. You'll get rid of it. You'll actively try and dilute how salty you are because you don't want to deal with what's going to come out because you don't know if you can handle it. You are the light of the world. You're not part of the light. You're not a light. You're it. Period. You guys, you are the light. You are what will save that situation. You are what will bring freedom, what will break the power of that thing in that place. It's you. Not what you're going to do, not what you're going to release. It's who you are. You are the light of the world. That's why he's sending you. He could send his angels. He could send his whatever. He's sending you. You're the light of the world. Here's the really cool thing about this. When you experientially engage with the reality of what you are, you don't have to shine anymore. You don't have to expose stuff anymore. You don't waste your time trying to accuse or label or identify dysfunction anymore. You're not trying to. That stuff is laid bare to you. You happen, and love directs how you engage what's going on. A town built on a hill cannot be hidden. You can't hide. All you can do is lie to yourself and give up your opportunity to influence the world. There's no negotiating this. Either you shine or you lie. You guys, when stuff gets exposed, I think that's the next thing. Let's see. When anything is exposed by the light, who's the light? Who's the light? Yeah, the response is I am. We are. You are. Okay, let's read that. Okay, who's the light? Okay, I am or we are, one of the two. All right, when anything is exposed by you, it becomes visible. For anything that becomes visible is light. The question now becomes, it's not what do I do, how do I do it, it's can I? Can you? Because honestly, the skill set, you'll figure that out. That's not hard to come by. When you actually give the Lord of glory trust, the trust that he deserves in your being, you will learn the skills you need to handle what you've been called to. If you don't give him trust, then this conversation gets weird. It gets ugly. It gets creepy. It gets vindictive. It gets manipulative. It gets nasty and destructive. But if he has your trust, you will learn the skills to have that conversation. You'll find the words. Because I could give you scripts, because I've done this so much. I could literally write a book on this. I'm not going... Okay, let's just pretend I didn't say that. Anyway, my point is, I could give you scripts. I could give you formulas. I could give you ways to go about this. I think some of that might actually be helpful. However, right now, I don't think it is. I think you need to explore this with the truth, with love. And you need to find your voice in the conversation. And you need to be willing to say something, to cast your lot, to throw down with Jesus. Anything exposed by the light becomes visible. And anything that's visible is a light. You guys, the dysfunction, the chaos, the destruction, the ways that the enemy has come to devour your brother or sister, when you happen, when you're light and you expose that thing with the intent of love, we're just going to throw that in there, assuming that's there. When you expose that thing, because that's what love is doing, the dysfunction in their life actually becomes revelation for where the love of God must go in their life that they could not find before. the ways the enemy has come to steal and kill and destroy actually turn into service for that person. If you are light, if you're salt, so much of the breakthrough we need, we're holding for our brother. So much of what your brother or sister needs in their life to move into what the Lord is doing in their life is because you haven't given it to them. You haven't said anything. They can't hear it from him. The path that got them there, shut that door. That's why they're there. They're not trying to destroy themselves. They don't know any better. The feedback that you would bring from the place of love and truth, plank free, would set them free, would liberate them, would open a whole other pathway they could not find before. This was just a hallway for years, and all of a sudden there's a door. And there's a whole other wing to this house. And you can see it. And you watch them walk past it over and over again, and they're decaying every time. Why wouldn't you say something? We must trust that what we are, that the light is strong enough, stronger than the darkness, stronger than their pain. We must trust that what we are, that the light is strong enough, stronger than the darkness, stronger than their pain. It is, but until you know that, you won't know how to use it. You must experience this for yourself. You must watch the light set them free so you can participate, so you know how to go. The light will set them free. You guys, a lot of the work that I do, most of the work I do is helping get them to the light. The light does everything else. And that's the actual work. Whether it's mentoring or coaching or counseling or preaching, even in this class, my goal, my job is to get you to the light. You guys, you're not growing in this conversation. Seeds are getting planted. Doors are getting open. That's all great. Do not let that stop here. I've done my part. Go give yourself to the light. Let him take you. Let him speak. Let him show you what's going on. The light is effective. It's powerful. It'll change you. It'll change them. I wonder if there's... Okay. Dang it. I have a dare for you guys. It's come to that. It's time. Handle with care, but in the next week, as in between today and next Tuesday, I want you to get with the Lord. Some of you, this won't be hard. You'll know right away. Some of you won't even need to get with the Lord. You'll know what it is. I want you to get with the Lord. I want you to let whatever's in your heart, whatever planks are there, to come up. Don't pretend. Don't label. Don't reorient. Admit what's there. Look at it. Step into the light. And then who do you need to go talk to? Who do you need to go apologize to? Who do you need to confront? Who do you need to go, whatever. What's there? The dare is, go have that conversation. Don't make stuff up. Don't get weird. But if there's stuff in your heart that has not been dealt with, go deal with it. And if your heart starts beating really hard at the thought of that, you need to do this. And guess what? If you die afterward, if that's what the Lord decided needs to happen, he's probably right. So let's just get the fear of death out of the way. He took care of that already. If you're going to die and that's what the Lord lets happen, he's good. It's to your benefit that you die. Some of you will. Okay, I'm going to pray, and then we have 10 minutes. I'll let you Q&A on this. Oh, gosh, Q&A. All right. Can you just put your hand on your heart? Father, thank you for our relationships with our brothers and sisters. Thank you that you've designed us for that kind of connection, for that dynamic. Thank you that we get to experience that. It's a privilege to exchange love with others, to participate in you with them like that. God, I ask that you would inspire courage, freedom, hope, that you would clear the path, that you would show them the way into the light in their own heart. Yeah, I declare that that darkness, that pain, that resentment, that bitterness, that unforgiveness, that fear, that rejection, that offense, be exposed right now in Jesus' name. And I bless you to follow the truth into that dark place where only he would take you. To look into the eyes of your captor and slit his throat. Yeah, I bless you to trust and love. That he would set you free and that you would get to choose him. What a glorious death it will be. In Jesus' name. Amen. Okay, we've got 8 minutes. Any questions, right?
I have a question about, like, I think, like, talking to people that are dealing with fear or dealing with, like, embracing fear. And when you want to talk to them, like, I've developed language as, if I was a father, I wouldn't force my son to get over his fear by pushing him into it. If, for example, so if you're dealing with, like, a younger Christian, how do you not develop language that sounds nice and Christian that actually protects the evil in their life? Like, for me, I'm a son, so I don't, like, God's gonna, if there's, say, like, I'm growing and learning how to trust God, instead of actually saying, I'm just having a hard time letting go of my fear. Like, how do you, in maturity, discern when, actually, I'm not supposed to expose that person, God's working something as a father, versus when I just said that, I just covered their evil, if that makes sense, of embracing fear.
Yeah, the how is going to be your relationship with him. I can't say that for everybody. I don't know. It's between you and him. It's between him and them. It's between what is he asking of you. So honestly, like, the answer for that's going to be, what is the Lord doing? So that really boils down to, can you hear him? Because sometimes what the Lord's saying, most of us are just too chicken to hear. We don't want to be part of it because that's going to cost me too much. So I can't hear what he's saying. And we've decided that before we asked. So we can't hear the answer. So really, I think it boils down to getting out of your own way and then following what he's doing. Yeah.
You're talking about
you stand up?
discerning spirits and getting information from people, but when is it actually discerning spirit and when is it prophecy? That you have a prophecy from that for them?
So discerning of spirits is going to be what's operating right now, what's going on. Prophecy has to do with what's coming. A word of knowledge has to do... So for me, honestly, sometimes it's hard to separate discernment from word of knowledge, because sometimes the discernment feels like a word of knowledge, but it's... I don't know how to tell the difference between word of knowledge and discernment. Don't know. That's the best I can give you. Sorry, to be fair. Yeah.
So what do you do when you're having issues with your parents? You're learning all this great stuff about how to manage yourself, relationships, boundaries, whatever. Thinking specifically for me with my relationship with my mom, she relies on me as like a teacher for her, and it's a really unhealthy relationship, and I've kind of just like super stepped away from that for a season. So I'm like, how do I re-engage with her without trying to fix her or manage her or let her put me in a higher position than her, and then not also want to fix her while maintaining a healthy relationship?
One, I would say read Boundaries.
Yeah.
Super helpful. Honestly, you guys, Boundaries by Henry Cloud and John Townsend, changed my life. Super helpful in this conversation. So in that scenario, if I were you, I'm looking at how am I rescuing my mom? In what ways do I step into a role that's actually not mine to give? When I see her writhing in pain and it's actually not my job to fix it, can I actually let her feel it? Can I let the Lord do what he's doing? If he's telling me not to and I have the answer, I can fix it. That's how, can I say no? Can I pull back? I found that most people in your scenario where your parent is listening and learning from you and you've stepped into this like authoritative instructional role, it's difficult to not rescue them from what you know is going to cause them harm. You have to let them work it out. And it's not fair because you've not had the years to learn how to do that, like whereas they had that for you. They've learned how to let you experience things and not or whatever, right? So ultimately, it's going to be figuring out what is my boundary, with, as in what's okay for me to engage with and what's not. And you guys, when it comes to boundaries, the guilt needs to not be trusted for a season. You're going to feel guilty for things that you shouldn't feel guilty for. And so just because you feel guilty doesn't mean you shouldn't do it or that you should do it. Don't trust the guilt. There's a threshold there. It's going to last for a certain amount of time, but eventually, over time, your morality, your conscience will adjust to what you've established as true. Your conscience will adjust, and pretty soon you'll start feeling guilty for violating what's right. But for a time, when you're starting to get out of a dysfunctional relationship, don't trust guilt to guide you. It will keep you in bondage. So do what you know is true. And sometimes in those scenarios, having other people to process through this is necessary. There's no way around it, which is uncomfortable because you can't control those people. You can't guarantee what kind of counsel they're going to give you, if they're, whatever. You need people. As you engage with the Lord and your people, distrust the guilt, do what you know is right, hold that standard. Eventually, it will feel violating to break that standard. Eventually, it'll change. You guys, your conscience, your morality adjusts to your choosing. It adjusts. So there's a way that people can engage with sin and dysfunction for such a long time that eventually they don't even feel bad about it anymore. How is that possible? Their conscience is seared, meaning it has adjusted. The Lord can restore, so there's no like, oh gosh, that's the end of the world. But your conscience in threshold places like that where you're changing what you know to be right and how you practice it, you need to not trust your conscience and you need to follow the truth until it learns. Does that make sense? Helpful? Okay. Any other? Yes? Go, Zach, go. We've got like a minute.
Hi, my natural go-to is to think I can't minister until I've kind of got everything sorted within me. But how does that marry with, like, everything's a grace gift and we shouldn't wait to be perfect before we minister, and us ministering doesn't mean we're perfect and we've got no issues going on? How do they marry up?
That's control. I need to be perfect before I can do anything is control. So you need to let that go. You're not going to feel perfect all the time. But if love is looking at them, get over yourself. You can't be the forefront of everything all the time. I'm not saying you, I mean any of us. We have to get over how we feel. I'm not saying violate yourself. I'm saying if that's not what the Lord is doing right now, go follow him. He'll sort that stuff out. You are not like responsible to sort out all that stuff before you engage with the Lord. If the Lord is taking you somewhere, follow him. In ministry, that's separate than what we're talking about here. Okay, this is a unique scenario where we're like addressing dysfunction in our personal lives with people we're in relationship with or whatever. If you're on the ministry line, forget that stuff. Unless the Lord's like going after that and then he won't let it go, then fine. Step out of line, but that hopefully should have been dealt with before you got up there, right? Sort it. When you're there, the enemy is also trying to bring stuff up, right? He's trying to get you to remember that thing? Let's get the focus on you so you can't actually do anything. Ignore that. Follow him. So really, it's going to boil down to, can you discern what the Lord is doing? Can you get out of the way? Am I answering your question?
Yeah, no, that's
Do you want to
cool.
clarify any of that?
No, I think that's good.
Okay,
Thanks.
great. Yeah, right here.
So if I feel like I'm still growing in this, sorry, I'm little. I feel like you're still growing. I'm still growing in this area, and so when I'm sensing something, it might just feel like a big box instead of a specific. So when I'm going into approach talking to somebody, I feel like all I can give is how it makes me feel, and that it's icky. So I'm not sure I can give them something specific. So how
What do you mean, and then it's icky?
So like I feel like this when it happens. I feel like that, but it's not
all
necessarily.
you can say is I feel icky?
No,
Is it-
like it feels like, for example, perverted, or it feels aggressive, or things like that. Not necessarily. I feel like this is the spirit that is going on.
Okay, so you guys...
So I think I'm saying I don't feel like I have depth into the issue, but how do you have that conversation without and still leave them feeling loved and supported and covered?
Here's the thing. You don't need to diagnose and describe in detail everything they're dealing with. All you need to let them know is, hey, I'm experiencing a disconnect here. This thing is making me feel like I can't trust you, which I don't get, so I'm bringing it up so we can deal with it together. We're having a conversation. When this happens, this is how I feel. When you said this thing, this is how it hit me. Do you have any insight for me? Do you know what might be going on there? You don't need to say the word spirit at all. I find actually most of the time it's helpful not to say the spirit of. because that just freaks people out. They go nuts. So, because that soul thing. So forget spirits, talk about the emotional level, right? When you said that, I felt like, whatever. What do you think about that? What was going on? Is there something off there? Am I going crazy, right? Like, just give them some options. Oh, no, yeah, I felt something weird too, whatever. Navigate it, right? To the point where if they're ready and you can talk about spirits, fine, go there. I would wait until you've gotten some like experience and success under your belt before you start having those conversations, but I would keep it strictly emotional, strictly relational. How can we engage this from how you're affecting me in our trust? Yep. Any other questions? Okay, last one, over to here.
So yeah, just going off what you were just saying, what if you kind of go through that whole conversation and their like walls are straight up and they're like not prepared to...
They're swiney?
Yeah, basically. Like they're
Would-
just... I mean, what if you've kind of observed like them having... other people having conversations like that with them and they've been like...
But they haven't done that with you yet.
Yeah,
I'd have the conversation.
still have it and...
Yeah, it might
what
be
if-
different with you.
Yeah.
I mean, there are people I've talked to who I know they've had issues with this in the past, but I know this time it's going to be different because it's me. It's not arrogance. It's trust in how I've learned to follow the Lord, and I know other people have made messes, and people don't do this stuff well. So I'm like, hey, this time it'll be different, and sure enough, it is. That came from like just experience and reaffirmation from the Lord that he does his thing. It might be different with you. If you come in, you know, because what I described today with the whole like coming in low, trusting the Lord, all that stuff, a lot of people don't do that. Most people don't do any of those things. Most people go in angry with an agenda and they're looking for a certain outcome, which is control. So most people have a fight. And so if you're different than that and it's the same conversation, they won't recognize a difference. It'll be a totally different conversation to them. You know what I mean? And if they feel love and safe and trust from you, they'll be willing to look at the thing everyone else has been trying to say, and that stuff can come in to serve in that moment because you're light. Does that make sense? Yeah. Helpful? Yeah. Okay. Cool. You guys, we've got 2 classes left. We're only going upward from here. So I will see you next Tuesday at 4:15. Have a great week.